Uh, I'm just gonna go do a quick run through of dispatch form, and I'm just gonna try to make it as quick as possible because it's not very complicated at all. So once you've downloaded your dispatch form and you open the Excel spreadsheet on your computer, this is what you're going to see, right? And the first thing I want to draw your attention to is the very bottom right hand corner where it has the control to contract or expand the dispatch form. Because what's going to happen is that the screen that I'm using to create this is a 32-inch widescreen. And what you may need to do if you're opening it on your laptop or a smaller monitor is to reduce the size. At the moment, I have this set to 90%, right here in the corner. But if your computer has a smaller screen, you may have to set it to 80% or 70%. And let's say that you were to set it to, for example, if you look at the very edge of mine, or let's make it down to 80%. That's 70. Let's make it 80%. So if you look, what you can see here is that 80% does not fill the screen. So what you will do is to click on the 80%. There's a plus or a minus sign. I don't know if you can see it on your screen, but it should be in the recording. There's a plus and a minus sign to control the size. But if you click on the actual percentage, this will pop up. And what this will allow you to do is to put in an exact percentage. And I already know that 91% will be will exactly fill this screen. So now you notice the space at the side has disappeared, right? So you need to figure out what percentage would allow this to fit your screen, so that you can see everything at the same time. Now I'm going to reset it to 90% because I'm actually more comfortable with that. The second thing I want to draw your attention to is at the very bottom of your screen, you will see a number of tabs. The tabs say truck 1, truck 2, truck 3, truck 4, truck 5, broker lookup, template, and example. The tab that I have open now is the tab called example. So what's happening here is that I downloaded a worksheet that has all, that has information in it as a reference, so that any point in time you guys can come and take a look at this to get an idea as to what should be happening in the others. The second tab I want you to look at is the template, and the template is basically um, an empty worksheet, right? Uh, Up to this morning, I had some information in it, but I realized that that information was actually confusing some people, right? Because when they opened the worksheet, they saw some information and they did not know what to do with that. Well, basically, the plan was that you would have just simply deleted the items in the first row of week one. Sorry, there's some noise from outside. It should pass soon. All right, so from the very first row of week one, there's some information in there. And if you were to just to delete that information from the rate con, pickup area, the delivery location, the pickup date, the delivery date, the distance, not the rate per mile, but to delete from the quote in or invoice amount, right? Then that should literally clear the entire sheet. It was just there to give you further assistance to kind of understand the sheet at first glance. But I found that it's confusing some people. See, I still have some information in here. I'm going to go ahead and delete it. And this still has something selected. So I'm just going to click on the down arrow and then I'm going to scroll up and select. Okay, great. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and save that because right. So what happens is that now when you download the form, it's going to be completely empty, right? Except for this date. What I've decided to do with this date is because I don't want to leave it blank. Some people will miss it. So I decided that every time I do an update, I'm going to put the date of the update there. So yeah, so once you open the form, you will always know, okay, this is the most recent update because that's the most recent date, right? So this morning I added one more feature to this because somebody requested it and it made a lot of sense. Um, Now for the driver's pay, we're going to be able to select um, either percentage, or we'll be able to select the rate per mile. And I'll speak some more about that in a minute, but I just wanted to mention that right away. All right, so the next thing I want to bring your attention to is the tab that is called, oh, before I go, this tab that is called the template is for uh, is not for you to actually work in. You should never work in the template. It is just here in case you need a fresh copy of a worksheet. So you've used up truck one, you've used up truck two, you used up truck three and truck four, truck five, and you need a truck six, but the worksheet did not come with a truck six. So what you would do is to right click on the template, select move or copy. You're going to select create a copy, right? That little select box right there, make sure it's ticked, and you're going to select OK. It's going to ask you, this little pop-up is going to come. It said the name brokerages already exists. Click to use that version of the name, or click no to remove that version of brokerages you're moving or copying. Always click yes to all, right? Because the new sheet needs to have all of the same reference points as the old sheet, as what's in the template. So you don't want anything to change. All right. So, and if you only click yes, then it's going to ask you more questions about all the other behind the scenes things that really don't matter. So what you need to do is to click yes to all, and you'll see that template 2 has been created. All right. What you'll do next is to right click on template 2, select rename, and you're going to name it truck number 6. There, so you had 5, now you have 6 worksheets, but you're always going to use the template to create a new worksheet. Now if you just click on that and drag it, you should be able to drag it into position truck number 6. Okay, so now we have 6 trucks on this worksheet, and you can keep adding new trucks to your worksheet. If you're dispatching for a company that has 10 trucks or 20 trucks and you want to manage all of them from one worksheet, then you just keep adding trucks as you need it. Or if it's like my plan where you're dispatching for a company that has 1 truck, but you want that company to grow as quickly as possible to having 5 trucks, 10 trucks, and more, then as the company grows, then you will be able to add new trucks, right? Great. The next tab I want to bring your attention to is called the broker lookup. Now this is where you're going to enter the information concerning the brokers, just like we have it here, right? The broker, you will enter the name of the brokerage. Let's say that the name of the brokerage is Ghost Freight Logistics, and the contact person's name is Justin Sample, right? The Justin's phone number, or the contact phone number, the EIN number of the company, and the MC number of the company. All right. If you guys need anything more than that for to know more than that about your broker, maybe you can let me know and I can keep adding more information. But basically, for this purpose of this form, I think that's a lot of information. That should be okay, right? And you'll realize that what happens is that when we update the broker information on this sheet, and I'm going to take you back to well, any one of these. Let's go to truck one. Yeah. Um, you will realize that the broker's information. So in week one, where you're going to go to select your broker, right, from the drop down, you'll see that broker number one is now Ghost Freight Logistics because I just changed it, right? Broker number two, three, four, five, six, seven. So you don't change anything in this column. You will change it in the broker lookup worksheet, and it will automatically be available in the in the um, in the work area, right? Okay, now let's see. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let me tell you how to get started working with this, right? So once you've downloaded this, there is still some information in the sheet. I'm not going to move it, but basically you're going to enter the actual MC number of the company that you're dispatching here. It could be your company, or you could be dispatching for somebody else's company, but you're going to add the MC number here, right? And then you're going to add their US DOT number, and here you're going to put the plate number of truck number one, right? So whatever the registration number of truck number one is, you'll put it here, which is the unique identifier for truck number one. So you always know, or you should always check when you're entering information concerning that particular truck and that particular driver, that are um, you're on the right sheet corresponding to that particular truck, right? Now, for each truck, you're going to go ahead and enter this information, the contact name of the person or of the company, right? You already entered the company's name here, and the contact information of the person, of whoever it is that you're working for in this company, um, and their phone number here, right? Just simply replace the text that's already here. The text is just here to tell you what to put there, but you just simply copy, type over it, and it should be fine. Contact email of the person, then the driver's name if the driver is different from the person who owns the company, because if it's an owner operator, then the driver would be the same person, so you don't need to put the driver's name a second time. But in case the driver's name is different from the person who owns the truck, then or maybe it's one of your drivers, I don't know, then you can go ahead and put the driver's name separately here and the phone number to reach the driver here, all right? Because as a dispatcher, you're going to need to know that. All right. There's certain information that you always need to know concerning that particular truck is which insurance company is it insured under, right? And you're going to need contact information for the insurance company, a phone number to call the insurance company, the policy number on for that particular truck, the agent who if there's a particular agent that deals with that truck, you're going to want to put that there, and um, and the agent's phone number. Yeah. Now, you may also want to put the factoring company information that the carrier works with or that you work with, just so that whoever is dispatching, because you see, even if you own the company, eventually you may want to hire a dispatch person to maybe work in your office or even hire a dispatch service. And they're going to need this type of information to be able to expedite your paperwork and your invoicing, billing and invoicing, yes? So they are going to need this information concerning um, the factoring company and the factoring agent, if you have one, somebody who you speak to directly concerning your business, right? Any good company has account managers, and if you're bringing good business to the company, then they really should be providing some sort of personalized service. If they're not, then maybe it's time to shop around. All right, and truck details. This is where you're gonna add the make and model, the year of the truck, the trailer type of the truck. You just simply put them in just like this. I thought about putting, creating more slots for it, and I thought that that would just not be useful because everything can fit here. And what happens is that, um, so at a quick glance, you always know what type of truck you're dealing with, and that's very relevant, especially things like the year of the truck, the type of the make and model. Tells you a lot about what type of mileage the truck is able to well, let's put it mileage per gallon. You know, is it a newer truck? Is it an older truck? All of these will be guiding your decisions as you go forward, dispatching. Right, the trailer length, um, or basically the length of the box if it's a box truck, because everything, those are information that should be guiding your decision making every single day, right? You want to know how much to charge, for example, for a load. You really should be charging based, in my opinion, you should be charging based on the what it costs to run that truck. And the cost to run an older truck, or a truck with a bigger engine, is greater than the cost to run one of the newer trucks with smaller, more economical engines, right? So that's very important information. All right. Um, so if you're using a dispatch service, then you're going to want to enter the dispatch fee, right? In this column, right next to dispatch rate, you're going to want to be putting in the dispatch fee. For example, if you were working with me, then the dispatch fee would be 10%, right? So you just simply enter that there, right? Um, the average cost for running a truck is $1.80, so I usually just put that in there if I'm doing an example. But if I'm working with a carrier, then they would know exactly what the cost of operating their truck is, and they'll be able to give you a better idea. If it's an older truck with a bigger engine, that hauls heavier loads, then the cost per mile of operating could actually be greater than $1.80, much greater, right? So you need to know that, um, and get that information from the carrier. Great. So the driver's pay, if you're keeping track of the driver's pay, then you have the two options I mentioned earlier. You can keep track of the driver's pay at rate per mile, which you would then say, for example, the driver earns 75 cents, right? 0.75 cents per mile, right? And what will happen is that the driver's pay would be automatically calculated down here in the form, right? But I'll come back to that in a bit. Let's add some information so that we can see how this all comes together. So now that you have set up your form and you're ready to work, you're about to move your first load. Now to enter, so you've entered this information, which is important, right? You need to know this before you do anything else. And then what you're going to do is you're going to, let's enter our first load that we booked. And let's say that we have booked the load with the broker, Ghost Freight Logistics, right? If you notice, the broker's number has popped up here, so you have it for a quick reference if you need to call the broker at any point in time. And so you've already set up that broker in your broker lookup. And what you can do is the broker should have sent you a rate confirmation number. So let's say that the rate con number is RC underscore 1001, and the pickup location, let's say that the pickup location is going to be Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Now you're gonna add all of the information concerning the pickup. You're gonna add the actual, um, the exact place where the load will be picked up, right? and then you're going to add the delivery location. Let's just say we're talking about New York. All right, long trip. That's a lot of miles. But uh, or not, whatever. It doesn't matter. We're just putting in information so you can see. Because my brain is so particular now. I'm beginning to argue with myself about what I'm doing. So dispatch date. Now, great. So if you notice, there's a little date picker here. I added that this morning. But this is going to add a small complication where when you download the form from the website and you try to open it, it's going to uh, give you a notification that it contains um, basically foreign code, something called a macro, and it's going to ask you to permission to enable the macro, but it's going to warn you that macros are dangerous. All right. So this is not a dangerous macro. It's the only one in the form. I added it this morning because I felt like the adding the date could be a little bit too complicated if you have to type it out all the way. So what's going to happen is that we're going to add a date. Let's say that we're adding today's date. We're going to pick up today. Um, we're just going to go ahead and click on today's date. And if you notice, it's immediately populated here, right? Now, what you want to do is to go here in the formula bar at the top, and the time, you're going to need to still set the time. So let's say the pickup time is 10 p.m. because well, we're just going to say that. All right. So the pickup date is today at 10 o'clock this evening, and the delivery date is let's say it's next month, so Wednesday. All right. At again, we have to go and change the time. So let's go with 12. Let's go at 12 p.m. All right. We're only guessing. Nothing has to make sense. It's just an example. All right. Great. So we've entered the pickup date. We've entered the delivery date. And we're going to say, let's say that the miles that they're going to travel is 1,600 miles. And let's say that we are, I always recommend that you quote at $3 a mile. So let's do that. So 1,600 miles at $3 a mile. I think you can quote more depending on whatever the particulars of the load are. You can quote $4, $5, whatever. I just believe personally that nobody should quote less than $3 because it's not doing the industry any service and it's not doing your company any service. And by the time, before you finish this video, I'll show you why. All right. So we entered $1,600 and we are going to multiply that by 3. So we're looking at $4,200. Am I right? For the 200? I'm wrong. 3. Oh, right. I'm very wrong. Nonsense. I'm going to do this in my head. So 1,600 times 3 is 32, 42, 44, I think. Is it 5,400 or 4,400? Hmm. It's 5,400. Weirdo John. I'm not as smart as I sound. Well, okay. We're going to charge 5,400, right? I've got it wrong, but it's because it's coming out at $3.38 per mile. But that's still good. We're gonna charge $3.38 per mile. So we're gonna assume that the broker has agreed to our rate of 5,400, right? $3.38, and we're doing 1,600 miles, and we're heading out to Fort Lauderdale. Sorry, from Fort Lauderdale to New York. Please, I know, there's no logical reason why I'm in Florida. It's just an example. Just roll with me, okay? All right, so I'm sorry, just clearing that up. So, okay, so there's some requirements that's already here, so I'm just going to leave that. Right, so the broker has some special requirements. We entered them: straps, binders, 8-foot tarp. So obviously we're running a flatbed, and so if we're running a flatbed, we should probably charge them more. What do y'all think? Because ain't no flatbed moving for $3.38 at that kind of distance, or it shouldn't be. Maybe closer to, what does 6 to 400 look like? $4, yes, $4 per mile. Take it or leave it. That's all right. I'll make calls till my ears drop off until I find somebody that pays better. All right. So and so we've passed this information to the driver, and at the time that we're filling this out, the driver is already en route to the pickup point, right? So we just simply select the status of the load as en route, right? Let me see if I'm right. En route is supposed to be driver is left on the way to the pickup point, right? So I call that en route. If somewhere along the line the driver is en route, that the load, they get a call, the load is canceled, all right? Then we would just simply select canceled. And if you select canceled, it will show up here as a cancel load. I felt like it would be important to know how many loads per year has been canceled, you know, so that metric is there. I think if you can see at the end of the year that you've had a large number of canceled loads coming from a particular broker, maybe, I don't know, then maybe that you might inform your, it might inform your decisions as to whether or not to work with that particular broker anymore, or to work that particular lane anymore, right? So I decided to put that metric in there. So if a load is canceled, you don't delete it, you mark it as canceled, and it will be added into the canceled calculation, and you will be able to see how many loads over the period of your 52 weeks, because this form runs for 52 weeks. You'll be able to see how many times loads have been canceled. All right. Okay. But once the driver arrives at the pickup point and is in the process of being loaded, for example, sometimes being loaded can take many hours, then you will update the status of the load to picking up, right? You can also, after the pickup is done, the next selection is in transit. The load is on its way to the next location, so it's in transit. When they reach the destination, right, based on your communication with the driver, you will know whether or not he's delivering, right, which again could take a while, or if he has been waiting for so long that it's now time for detention to kick in, then you will change the status of that driver to in detention, right? The next choice again is delivered. The load is being completely delivered. So you change the status to delivered, and I believe it's very important that you always know exactly what's going on with the load, because a load that's delivered, if you look through your sheet for the week and you're noticing a load is delivered, then it has to trigger your thought that I need to send an invoice, right? Load is delivered. I need to get the information from the driver, the BOL, the proof of delivery, and then I need to go ahead and submit an invoice, right? So Once I have submitted an invoice, then I will select invoiced. And during the time that we're waiting on that invoice to be paid, right? If the invoice is only partially paid, then we can select partially paid. I added that in there because you never know what type of deal you might have made. Um, it doesn't sound like great business to be taking partial payments, but there can be situations where it can be beneficial. So you may want to work with somebody, or the choice should be there should you ever need it. Hopefully you never need it, right? Hopefully you're it will always be paid in full, which once you select paid in full, it will go ahead and update the paid in full column, right? And your week's revenue. So once you have entered this information, it's updates your week's revenue, but it doesn't update your paid in full until it is paid in full, right? But it will be in your outstanding. So let's say that you are not yet at the level where it's paid in full. It's only been invoiced, for example. You'll notice that it's showing up here in week revenue, which it always will, because the minute you book it, it's part of the week's projected revenue. And um, but it's outstanding. It hasn't been paid, right? So once you've updated the status to paid in full, you'll notice it moved from outstanding to paid in full, right? And so you have a complete load that has been moved. So let's look at how this affected the entire form, right? So the very first load has been moved. Um, your estimated cost of operations, now this isn't your exact cost of operations, right? Is 28,800, and this is based on the the cost per mile that you put here. So you move 1,600 miles. So based on your cost per mile, right, of $1.80, your truck has incurred cost of $2,880. All right, let's go all the way to the top. And so far, your year to date, or your entire year, which is only one load you've moved for the year so far, but that's fine, has things have already begun to show up here, right? So at first glance, once you open your form, you can see that you've run $6,400 in loads for the year, and that $6,400 is paid in full, right? And what you have earned from that entire run after all your expenses have been paid is $2,880. All right, that's your money, or let me rephrase that, that's your company's money. All right, that's important. Separate your money from company's money. Your money is a salary. So your company's money is $2,880 from that one load. The cost of running the load was, well, $2,880. That's very coincidental, but that's what it is. At $1.80 per mile. So your average rate per mile so far is $4. Because there's nothing else to add it to, it's just the one, but it's there, $4. Right? You run 1,600 miles so far. So when you do this load a second time, then all of this is going to double. If you do the exact same run, for example, the next load is that. It probably shouldn't be. You should be doing a backhaul from New York to somewhere. But let's just say that the next load is exactly the same thing. Then all of these numbers would automatically be doubled. All right. Um, so I'm hoping that this gives you an understanding so far of how the sheet works. I hope I'm not confusing anybody. I really wanted to make it as simple as possible. So let's continue, because we all know that nothing is that simple. There's something called accessorials, and what happens with accessorials is that there are additional charges that come up, right, when moving loads, especially if it's reefer or flatbeds or specialized loads. Then you may have a number of other uh, areas that you're going to charge the broker for, or the shipper if you're dealing with them directly, right? We mentioned detention a bit earlier. So if there is detention and there is a charge for detention for, say, $100, right, or even $150, then we're going to go ahead and put it there. If there is detention and layover, right, I did not have enough space to give everything its own spot. So what I was hoping is that if you have a detention and then you have a layover, then if the detention was $150 and then the layover was $100, then you would just simply put $250 here, right? You'll add it up and put it there. So basically, between detention, layover, or maybe some additional charge for after hours delivery, in some cases that applies, then you will add them up and put them there, right? Another option that you may have is if your company, by your knowledge of this particular truck, does not use all of these accessorials, then you can go through this and, well, I don't recommend you do it because it's going to affect you. If you change uh, that would be a lot of changes. Let's stick with the original plan because I was thinking that let's say you only use 5 accessorials or 10 or 6 or 10, then you can just go through here and just change all of these, right, to the ones that you use for your company. The only problem with that is you're going to have to go through the form and change it in all 52 weeks. So I don't know if you want that much stress. That's very time consuming and very, it's too much. So I don't recommend you do that, right? So let's just add the accessorials based on the columns. If you have more than one, add them and just enter it because you just want to keep track. Basically, they're all categorized, um, based on their relationship. So detention, layovers, after hours delivery kind of falls into the same category of accessorial. So that's why they're all together, right? Oversized and overweight, for example, over here. Um, they're kind of the same thing, right? Uh, and so on. There's things like advanced notification, blind shipments, limited access, after hours pickup or delivery. Huh, look at that. I could delete one. Well, see, that's something. But I'm gonna leave it, but that is, that looks like a little duplication there. Reclassification, reweigh, um, residential, inside, metro delivery, right? So a number of different things. You can add them up and put them there if they're more than one, right? Lumper fees are here. Sorting and segregating, if there's any charge for that. Sometimes you don't charge for that, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't touch it at all. There's just so many different variations, but I think we have everything covered. If there's anything missing that you want me to make any changes for the future updates, please let me know. I'm always trying to learn more and to do more. All right. Truck ordered not used. It's got its own, that's a very, if there's a cancellation, then there should be a accessorial for truck order not used, and you should receive some money for that depending on who you're working with, right? Great. So let's go down to our expenses because once the truck is moving, then you're going to be incurring some costs, and you're going to add here in this column things like tractor fuel. You're not going to mess with driver's pay. This updates automatically. And because we have this set to 75 cents per mile, and this driver has just driven 1,600 miles, then the driver's pay is automatically 1,200 miles, right? Um, I think, great. No, I'm not sure, but you can do the calculations and let me know. I will calculate and double check that because I did that this morning. I set that up this morning and I needed to, I'm just realizing that I needed to double check it. All right. But so you can let me know if it's right. Uh, a drive if a driver drives 1,600 miles at 75 cents a mile, is $1,200 what he should be paid, he or she should be paid, right? So drivers pay. Tractor fuel, and what is happening to my mouse? Great, my mouse has stopped working. Let's do that. All right, tractor fuel. Um, Basically, you will add that based on the fuel that is used, the information coming from the driver concerning how many fuel stops, or you can check it on your fuel card. And if you have access to that, um, that depends on your relationship with your driver, with your company, of course. Other types of fuel, if it's a reefer, right, then they will have other fuels. Any special permits that may be needed for oversized loads or over limit loads, right? Things like parking, overnight parking, the cost of that should go here. Any charges or fees incurred for tolls along the way or scales, you can add all of that up and put it there, right? Any tickets or fines, just never know, things happen on the road, right? Um, Maintenance or fluids, any your trucks are always drinking some sort of fluid. Lumper fees if they come up, and because what has to happen is that lumpers get paid, and then you get a reimbursement of lumper fees. So it's sort of a cyclical thing. But what I've observed from other people who've done this is, other companies, is that lumper fees aren't always reimbursed. So you will have a difference between um, the lumper fees you charge as an accessorial and the actual lumper fees that you pay out as an expense. All right. Um, if you needed to tack on something to insurance for that particular load, the cost of that should be added there. And um, well, any taxes or licenses that had to be paid, and any other miscellaneous expenses that is not covered here. So anything else that is not covered. And if you can think of anything else that you think should be here that's more important than what is here, let me know, and I'll try to make the adjustment. All right. So hopefully this isn't going on too long, but I think you should get the gist of it. Just one more thing. Uh, at the bottom of each week, there's some special area for you to type any special notes that you may have along the way. You can type it in here because you want to have somewhere that you can always check back over your 52-week period and see what happened when, and whatever special issue or thought or anything that came up that you think is important enough for you to make a note of. This is where you're going to make a note of it. All right. Now that would have completed week 1, and it is exactly the same for week 2, week 3, week 4, all the way to week 52. So the next thing I want to draw your attention to is, let's say that we have completed week 1. We had a very productive week, and you made some money, and you've closed off the week. It's done. Now, because there's an entire line of weeks here going down for 52 weeks, it will be very useful to hide, right? Once a week is closed off, then you should hide the week. And to do that, you're going to select the row at the very top of the table, right? And then you're going to scroll down to the bottom, right, where the notes are, where we just saw those notes. Scrolling down, okay, where it says special notes, right? So you're going to use the shift key on your keyboard, press it down, and you're going to select that row, right? Now you're not going to select in anywhere in here. You're going to go right to the end and select the actual number that is at the end of the row. So we're going to press shift, and that will select from where we began, right, the entire week. And what we're going to do is to right click on it, and we're going to select hide. Boom, right? So it's now hidden. It's gone. It's there. See that line? Don't even look for it. It's gone. All right? The only way you'll know that something is here is the numbers, the sequence of the numbers. So you have just hidden row number 28 to row number 62. So you're going to see that from row 27, there's a jump to row 63. It hasn't gone. It hasn't disappeared. It's just hidden, right? So when you come back to the form tomorrow or on Monday and you're ready to start your new week, then you are now looking directly at week 2. So here's the top of the form, right? Your dashboard, so to speak. And here is week 2. So at the end of week 2, you'll do the same thing. You will hide it, right? And in fact, let's do that. So 66. Let's assume that we've completed week 2 and we're going to hide week 2. So shift, we're going to press down the shift key. We're going to select week 2 and we are going to click on hide. So week 2 is now hidden, right? So week 3 is now at the top of the sheet. So when you're working in week 3, then it's right here. So whatever week you're actually working on should always be at the top because you've hidden them, right? This space where you're hiding them are going to get bigger because they're, it's going to get wider, but that's fine. You just need to know that that they're there. And what would happen is that if you want to unhide them for any reason, then you will go to row number 27, where the jump is from row 27 to 63, right? You will select row number 27. You press shift and select row number 63, and then you will right click and select unhide, and that will bring back week number 1. Let's say you wanted to go check something on week number 1, right? You have now reactivated it, or you've unhide it, you unhid it, and you can make any changes or make any references, check whatever it is you need to check, right? And then you can go ahead and hide it again, right? You can do the same thing for week number 2, which is between 65 and 101. See that there? Right? That's the only way you're going to know that something is hidden. The numbers, the sequence of the numbers is going to tell you that if what comes after 65 is 101, then from 66 to 100 has been hidden, right? And to unhide it, you will select 65, press shift, and select 101, which selects both, right? And you're going to go ahead and do the same thing again, which is to unhide it. And then week 2 will come back into view. All right, so you can you can play with that. If I were, let's say that I was at week 26, which means I have 25 hidden weeks, then I may just unhide everything, right? If I needed to unhide, I just unhide everything. So I would just select that whole space right there and just click on hide, and it'll unhide all of the weeks at the same time. I think I should show you, right? So what I would do then is just go ahead and select from 26 all the way to 102. Well, so I know that somewhere in between here, everything is hidden, and I want to unhide everything. So I'm just going to go ahead and select everything here, right? And I'm just going to click unhide. And week 1 and week 2 and week 3 and week 4, depending on how many hidden weeks I have here, will automatically come back into view, right? And I could just hide them all back again the same way. Hopefully everybody understands that, because your form will become very difficult to work with if you don't hide the weeks that are completed. All right, so that's where we are. I hope that everybody enjoys working with these forms. I'm trying to think of anything I haven't remembered. Great. So once you've downloaded the form from the website, the very first thing you need to do is to save the form. I recommend that if the company that you are dispatching for is Ghost Freight Transportation, for example, then I recommend that you name the form before you do any work in the form at all. I recommend that you go ahead and name the form, um, or save the form as, right? You might be more familiar with that. What's going on with this computer? I'm having a save as, and I would instead I had change the name from the dispatch form, right? So I'm now going to save it as Ghost Freight Transportation. Cool. I can choose whatever folder I need to save it in, but I would normally create a folder. Yes, I would create a folder, and I would name the freighter. Right, so anything to do with Ghost Freight Transportation would be in this particular folder. And so now I'm saving it. It disappeared. Okay, that's fine. Let's type it again. It's fine. Great. So I'm now saving the form as Ghost Freight Transportation in the folder name Ghost Freight Transportation. There. Right. So now all of the work that I do in this form is Ghost Freight Transportation, which does not affect the form that I downloaded, because I may now be working for another company called John Jones LLC, all right, or John Jones Transportation, and therefore I just simply open up the form I downloaded, save it as John Jones LLC in a folder named John Jones LLC, so I stay organized, and I would then work on John Jones LLC in their worksheet, right? So, but if you end up corrupting the actual worksheet that you downloaded, nothing to worry about. You simply go back to the website and download it again. It'll always be there in your downloads area, right? Once you've purchased it, it will always be there for you to download. All right, so, and that's the game, all right? So this has been a very long video. um, what I will do in the future is to do a series of videos, much shorter, but because we are still in production, I don't want to do all of that and then have to do it over again when we've reached the final version. So I'm going to make this video available so that people get a general understanding of how the dispatch form works and how to get started with it, right? So there's no confusion. So remember, once you set it up, you enter the company's name, you enter the company's MC, their USDOT number, and their plate number of the particular truck that you're working on, right? Here, in truck number 2, you enter a completely different plate number for a completely different truck, right? And then you go ahead and you add a dispatch rate, you add the cost per mile, and you add the rate per mile that you want to pay the drivers, all right? And what will happen is then your form will be ready for you to start working in it, right? This information all the way here will update itself, and the form won't allow you to make any changes. If you clicked on this, right? This is open now. If you looked at the very top here, you will see that I have formulas. But once I password protect the form, those formulas will become invisible to you. And when you click on these cells, it will tell you right away, do not edit, because those are formulas. And if you were to mess with those formulas, then the form would be rendered useless, right? So don't be discouraged because the form keeps rebuking you when you press the wrong the wrong things. You're not going to do anything wrong. It will be protected. If you are skilled with Excel and you want to make changes on your own, just reach out to me for the formula and I will tell you what it is, and you will be able to make those changes. All right. I don't keep the sorry, not formula, the password. I don't keep the password from anybody who wants it. But the smart thing to do is to leave the formulas alone and use the sheet. The sheet will always let you type where you're supposed to type, and it will always stop you from typing where you're not supposed to type. So when the sheet tells you do not edit, or this is a protected cell, it's there for a reason. It's not a mistake, right? It's there to keep you from making mistakes. But if you click on something, for example, if you go here to quote an invoice and you click on this and it says, it lets you enter a quote, then that's fine. You enter something here, you enter a figure here. But if you were to try to click on this, right, it will tell you do not edit, because, and the formula won't even show up actually, because it will be password protected to stop you from accidentally messing with the formula and corrupting the entire form. All right, anybody has any questions at all concerning this form, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook. Or if you go to the website, you can simply send a Facebook message. On the website, there's a little messenger icon. Click on it, a box will pop up, and you'll be able to send a message, and I will respond to you as soon as I see it. So if I'm at my computer, I'll respond right away. If I'm not at my computer, I'll respond as soon as I get back to my computer. All right? And I will try to solve any problems or answer any questions that you have at any time. All right. I'm at my computer a lot, so it shouldn't be a problem. All right. So I hate long videos, but I don't see how I could have done this shorter, and so I'm just gonna let you go now. Uh, you can stop the video. You can come back to the video and make reference. You can rewind, or you can or fast forward until you find what you need. But we've covered a lot, and um, I really hope that you enjoy working with this in your business. I hope it keeps your business organized and it keeps you on top of your profits, right? Because it's kind of important that you do business in a way. You're not one of those people who end up at the end of the year when, after your accountant sits you down and tell you, well, now you're paying all of this money in taxes, and you barely scrape through for the year, or you're running at a loss. Um, or maybe you don't have an accountant, you just don't even know exactly what's going on with your business. This will let you know from the very first load that you ran, you already knew that you made money, right? And if you had lost money, it would tell you that you lost money, right? It tells you how much you're paying your dispatcher. It'll tell you how much money has been paid into your accounts, right, by your customers. It'll tell you how much is outstanding, how many miles you've run, how many loads have been cancelled, and it'll also tell you what their estimated costs are. And just one quick thing before you go, your expenses down here, right? Your total expenses will be different from your cost of operations, right? So your cost of operations is based on the cost per mile of running your truck. Your expenses are actual expenses that you incur while operating. So you'll always find that the cost of operation is higher than your actual expenses. It needs to be. If it's not, then you may need to look at something, right? Um, so it's not going to be the same. It's not supposed to be the same. So don't be confused if it's not, right? And it's a good thing if your actual expenses are much less than your projected expenses. All right. All right. So that's the game. Hope you enjoy. I'm going to end this video here. Have an amazing one.